it has been my mission for what I do for the last 15 years publicly and 5 years underground. I have been following a phenomenon that has been happening to not only US civilians, but people globally. So, humans of the earth on a mass scale, and that is this Havana syndrome phenomenon, along with the anomalous health incidents, which they acronymed it to now. And basically, what the elites have done is they've turned the entire globe into a massive network of frequency capabilities that we might as well call it for what it is. It's a bioweapon, and it's being utilized against humanity non-consensually. I had the privilege of being a third-party investigator to help with the study that Matt's organization was doing in the UK. And basically what we do, just a little bit at how we've come to this conclusion, eventually taking individuals into an anechoic chamber in Belgium, where I was invited by a government agency to test their diplomats and employees. What we were hypothesizing is that those in the intelligence agency, where there's diplomats, FBI, CIA agents, or congressional members, they say in 2016 they were exposed to this, and to this day they are. There's 338 documented cases, and I spoke to the head doc of that three-letter agency personally. I've been covering this since 2010 publicly, where that doc from that three-letter agency had concurred that the symptoms that his patients are experiencing and my clients are experiencing are identical.
You just said, and I quote, they've built a massive network of frequency abilities. You actually referred to that as a bioweapon, so you can flush that out. But Havana syndrome that you've helped treat people with by putting them in essentially the human equivalent of a Faraday cage, their symptoms went away for maybe the first time in years and years and years. Many of these people wept because they realized they weren't crazy. They are truly under a frequency assault. So do I have that right? I just want to reframe that for the audience.
Yes, they are definitely under frequency assault. And what we were detecting in that controlled environment were frequencies that we shouldn't have. We had control groups who tested 0 with our frequency detections. And then we had the symptomatic people who tested out in the field positive test for frequency emissions within the Faraday cage. And that's when we could conclude that it was emitting from their person for whatever reason. We didn't know what it was. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical professional. I deal with the technology side. But what we did do was take that data, and they were able to take it to their physicians. And we had cases where biosensors which were non-consensually implanted in these individuals, were surgically removed. Now, that was pre-pandemic. Post-pandemic, it's a different story. We're still dealing with a foreign body that's been imposed upon humanity without consent, but they're just at a much smaller scale, down to 1/2000th times the width of a human hair. So these cannot be visually seen by the human eye or on any diagnostic. The methodology is that we used a general frequency detector that gets attenuated down. So that's what it sounds like when it detects the frequency. But you can attenuate it down so the environment that you're in will not set it off until you're very near an emission. And so what we were finding with this is that people were along their person coming up positive for emissions for whatever reason around these areas, these regions. I expressed it was the right left TMJ, nasal dorsum, occipital, base of the neck, apexes, shoulders, upper abdomen, lower lumbar, scapula, base of the neck. These were all very typical. It wasn't random. It's not like maybe the cheek lit up or anything like that, or various areas. It was always in the same locations. We would mark them, and then we would come back with what is called a nonlinear junction detector. This was initially designed by an engineer to find rust on an airplane, and which was very important. You don't want anything just oxidizing that's going to fall apart, particularly when you're up in the sky. What they discovered is that this would also, and it's highly sensitive, and I'll demonstrate to the audience here, it will also detect electronic components made of silicon base, which is all circuitry, all contains silicon. What this does, it'll send out a harmonic trying to detect that. This is a key fob off of a vehicle, and just so you can understand. Probability silicon, okay? So that's what this does. And I could be as far back as here. It's highly sensitive. Okay. What we did is we said, interesting. We know that we had cases that had biosensors removed. I wonder what this would find if we scan around a person's body. And what we would find is that the exact same locations that we detected with the general frequency detector, this also picked up. So we had two different types of studies in the field that would pick up these areas. And this is designed only to detect silicon-based materials, so which are electronic circuitry. And this is a very unique device in which the second harmonic, it'll hit and tell you whether you have circuitry. And then if you get the third harmonic, usually that's of the corrosive material. So you can have circuitry that have both metals and silicon base. But we would do the same thing all over the human body. And this is going to go off because I have a headset on. You would use this, and we were detecting areas all over the human body. And then it would give us various percentages that we can compile based on that. And then what we did in the UK is we did a baseline. We added up all those percentages. In addition, we documented the locations that were lighting up on each individual. And then when we just returned about 3 weeks ago, and I'll tell you what, as a third-party investigator, I wasn't sure what to expect, but I had a hunch because the zeolite Z, which is all natural, I've seen some previous studies. A study like this has never been done before, but I did see that it was taking out the graphene in blood studies that they were doing for graphene oxide. And it was a continuous decrease, which I was impressed with. And so I said, for the first time in 20 years, I'm going to support something and I'm going to recommend it to all of my clients who are suffering. And before the study was even done, they were claiming a 50 to 80% reduction in their symptoms. So it wasn't as intense. And when we went back 3 weeks ago, the results I never expected to see. It's just short of a miracle. I've never been one to stand by and let people suffer if there was a solution, which is our goal. This is why I created our organization, to help these people get, at least prior to that jab, to the surgeries, if this was the phenomenon that they were being afflicted by. But now post, what we found that even the general population is now lighting up in the same way that those symptomatic patients are. That wasn't like that prior to COVID.
We've talked about Havana syndrome and you helping people who suffered from that, people within our government who are being forced to, a lot of these people were getting brain injuries, had had to retire, they're incapacitated by their injuries. It's really, really horrible stuff. I guess my question is, this new study, just to separate the Havana syndrome folks from the people who have been cross-contaminated or took the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine, the COVID mRNA shots. This new study, you're talking specifically about vaccinated people or just help?
No, we had a total of 23 people in this study group. They were a mixed group. We even had one person in the study group that, get this, took a booster in between the study. I can't make this up. We can see how that affected her results, and she had the second worst results. So there's a good reason for that. I also do want to make a quick clarification. In our first two studies, where we tested a total of 27 people for graphene oxide, for hydrogel, for like polypropylene, which is in this silicon-based electronic circuitry stuff too, chlorine, a whole lot of other stuff, fluoride. What we've seen, whether they had been jabbed or not, however this stuff is getting into our bodies, everybody's levels were about the same. They're about the same, and it's bad. The levels were like, on a test that cuts off at 600, most of the average was like 450. It was like 3/4 of what the testing capability is to even see the toxins inside of the cell. So that's kind of where we start off with. Again, we knew that in our previous completed studies that made it through the double-blinded peer-reviewed process, we knew we could get the levels down of graphene oxide just over 70% because we had tested it. We knew with the hydrogel that we were getting it down in the first study group about 50%, and that was our lowest one. Now, when it came to like PFOs, microplastics, aluminum came down 80%. So we're like, wow, if we can get aluminum down out of the intracellular level by 80% in 90 days, then all of this stuff that we're talking about has its place with this internal type of biosystem, this thing that they've proven to emit radio frequencies from symptomatic people inside of like $1 million Faraday cages, anechoic chambers. We know that this internal system, when you're measuring radio frequencies and for silicon-based materials, which should never be in a human body, that post-COVID, which we're talking about thousands of people. We're not talking like 20 people. He does 20 people on a weekend most of the time. But we're talking about everyone. Every last person, to some degree or another, is emitting these frequencies and signals. So the study was measuring those signals, how many locations, and what was the number on it? Was it 100% where, or was it only 50%? We took that number for each location on each person, mapped it out, charted it out, added it up, and then at the end, which was after 60 days, it was a 60-day study period, we went to, and the people took 30 drops. We then, a day, so it was 30 drops of Masterpiece Zeolite Z a day, and we looked through it, and we added up what they were hitting at again. And from there, we got our numbers, which we can go over in just a second.
For folks who have autism in their family, kids who have been affected by the childhood vaccines, I do want to point out to folks, because I've got one too. He was born in 1998. I didn't know any better. And what I want people to understand is that these new childhood vaccines don't only contain aluminum, guys. They contain nano-aluminum particles, which can cross and do cross the blood-brain barrier, causing all sorts of horrific things. I don't know if anybody has seen the videos now of single women living with children with autism all by themselves. Guys, it's bad. It's bad. These women there's nowhere to turn. They're at their wits' end every single day, pulling their hair out, and many of them are suicidal because it's that bad. Now, what Matt just reported is an 80% reduction in aluminum.
This needs to be explained to everybody so that they can use this for the rest of their life when they're trying to figure out what's real or not, what is just another marketing, well-run program or not, because we're all fed that things out there, the biggest thing, and that if you take it, it's going to change your life. We've all been jaded with that. So let me explain what we're talking about, because right now I'm not making claims or baseless allegations that FDA or whoever else could come after me, because I'm doing what's called stating facts of completed studies that have made it through the scientific gold standard of legitimacy. And here it is, everybody. We all know how powerful Big Pharma is. Imagine if Big Pharma could have just paid any amount of money, because they would have paid billions, to produce a single study that was the gold standard, which means that passed through what's called the double-blinded peer-reviewed process. So if this system was anything other than ironclad or foolproof, then how much do you think that Pfizer, Moderna, or any of them would have paid to produce a double-blinded peer-reviewed article that showed their vaccine over their competition, that it was proven to be safe and effective? They would have paid everything to have that double-blinded peer-reviewed article, yet there's not one of them out there. So we're talking about a very legitimate way to get an article and prove that it is scientific or medically accurate, okay? So when we're talking about Masterpiece, and I'm telling you right now, in a study group with 27 people, where we're testing the intracellular, the inside cell levels for aluminum, you're talking about something so small. You're talking about nano-sized aluminum molecules. It's nano and sub-nanometer into the picometer size. In a group of 27 people, we have a double-blinded peer-reviewed paper authored by Dr. Robert Oldham Young that shows in 90 days an 80% reduction in aluminum levels.
This product can help all sorts of folks with all sorts of ailments. And regarding safety studies for the bioweapon masquerading as a vaccine, there were none, folks. And this from the FDA slideshow with Pfizer, they knew what this thing was going to cause: Guillain-Barré, stroke, narcolepsy, anaphylaxis, myocarditis, pericarditis, death, spontaneous abortions. They knew it. So when I say these are bioweapons masquerading as vaccines, I'm not being hyperbolic.
People are starting to wake up. Currently, there are 3 states who are creating bills to make the mRNA delivery system classified as a bioweapon. The state of Tennessee, Arizona, and surprisingly Minnesota. These 3 states currently are instituting this and making it a felony by imprisonment, lifetime imprisonment. And this is what we really need to do to start having people be held accountable. You have other states that are working on it: Iowa, Idaho, and Montana. I guess that's a small win.
Lifetime imprisonment for what, Jesse?
For instituting mRNA technologies to create harm via form of injections or any products whatsoever.
Well, that's a win. Okay.
Yeah, that's a win. We're starting to wake up, and I think the timing is right. Back in 2010, I couldn't talk about this publicly the way we're doing it now, but I think the timing is right. Society understood that we have been duped, and now we want to see people held accountable. This is a small win. Also, we're wanting to basically get rid of the laws that allow experimentation on U.S. citizens illegal as well. And we're trying to get everyone to sign stop3024.com. If you go there, you'll see a petition. We'd really appreciate your support.
So it's very, very, very important whenever you're doing any type of clinical study that you have a proper chain of command. You have to have a third party, someone that's not involved with the company doing the analyzing and the testing. Very important to have a third party tester. You want that person to also be the highest level person you can find. And so when the study is to look at areas that are emitting, showing for silicon-based electronic circuits, you need a high-level certified technical surveillance countermeasures expert, and there's not a whole lot of them out there. So Jesse happens to be that guy for us. So he did the third-party testing. And then the study coordinator, you want them to be an experienced one that knows how to take the results with the right scientific approach and methodology, and can be able to take the final results and be able to put them into a legitimate, credified form so that you can use the results when you're talking on shows like this, creating maybe commercials, and you can state facts such as in a 27 people study group, we have double-blinded peer-reviewed articles showing reductions of glyphosate by 70%. We have to put the study together like this, and right now you're looking at the charts that will probably be used for double-blinded peer-reviewed publication. This is the study charts. And so you're seeing all the people who completed, and if you look at the numbers on the left, and you see, let's go at the very top and go over, you see 25, 25, 75, 60, and you just keep on adding those up. And then you're going to get to a total number. You add that number, which is for silicon-based, and I think that number right there was 1,200, and it was 19 spots. So yeah, look at the top left. That's 19 locations that total up to 1,200. And then you want to go over to the right on that same line, and you're going to see how many spots they showed up for this. So how many locations did they go from? They went from 19 locations. So they had 19 locations on their body that a $20,000 device that is used by the highest level people who are essentially using this equipment to see if an area is bugged, is wired. This area is to looking for things that are semiconducting silicon-based electronic circuits, which is like you're wired. Using the highest level equipment by an expert third-party analyzer, we got these results that will be able to make it through the double-blinded peer-reviewed publication that Dr. Robert Young will be putting together for us. And what we see is a total that went from 1,200 down to 95 on the second line. Yeah, just the second line. And so we see 20 locations that totaled up to 1,335. And then when we go all the way over, we see that 20 locations went down to 4 locations and a total of 110. So if inside of your body is emitting and has whatever's going on with this sick freakazoid show of this Agenda 2030 stuff, how much do you think if they are using direct energy weapons, let's say, or anything that needs to, if they're just getting information off of you or whatever, how good do you think the system works when it's been reduced 80%? Because that's the big question. That's what we proved. We had 2 people in the study that really threw the final numbers off. One lady decided she was just going to throw her whole workout regimen. She was our best beginning person, and she just threw it all away. Pretty sure she wasn't even taking Masterpiece, right? Because she was so preoccupied with them. And she was the only one that got worse results than the beginning. And then there was another lady that was getting COVID boosters in the middle of the study. And so she kind of threw off the results. But if you take away those 2 people, We had an 80% reduction.
It might be important to talk about that person who had the lowest score at baseline. She was a psychologist. She lived a healthy lifestyle. She rode horses every day. She walked her dog every day. She exercised and she ate organically. She was single at the time, wasn't in a relationship. And that's why I preface this. What happened afterward when we tested her, we were optimistic, hoping she'd be down to close to zero. If zero, that would have been a miracle. And we asked her what changed in her life. She goes, well, my lifestyle changed. She says, I'm now in a relationship. I'm not exercising as much and I'm traveling a lot more. And I said, well, did you get a vaccine? Did you take a flu shot? Anything? She goes, no. I said, well, how about the person you're in a relationship with? He had 2 flu vaccines. And the reason I think this is important to mention is that we talk about the shedding effect, where it can be transferred from one person to another in that aspect if you're exchanging body fluids. So if you're in a relationship with someone, specifically if you're a female, remember Dr. Ida Bachelet held up that 1 cc syringe that he brought from his lab and said inside the syringe are 1,000 billion robots. So essentially, you're getting exposed each and every time if you're in that type of environment. And that's the hypothesis we believe happened there. I just wanted to clarify that. Sorry to interrupt.
Totally. She had gone from working out 3-4 times a week, the whole works. She rode her bike to and from work 1 hour a day. Then she gets with this guy and she's everything went to hell in a handbasket in her life. So, but when we're looking at all the red, all the orange that's on the left, and then we look on the right and we see that now the system is far less working, far less locations. This is just masterpiece. There was nothing else we wanted the people to do because this study was to measure masterpieces, safety and efficacy, and getting out what we could measure of this, what I will say is an internal biosystem. And so this had obviously not been done before out there. You can see here, so these are before and afters of just the head and neck area. If we want to think of this system, the part that's attached to maybe your frontal lobe, I don't know if that's the wrong one, but your occipital lobe in the back, the right and left of your forehead area and your neck. If you can look, this is maybe the most important part of the system. And to see people decreasing by 100%, that means the system's out of their head and neck. 92%. These are people that we are now in a world, the truth of the matter is everybody to some degree has this system in them. And it's if you're feeling symptoms or anything right now, super loud, unusual ringing in your ears, Jesse can go into all of it a lot more. Even voice to school stuff can be a part of this. But any of those symptoms, that's because the system is turned on. But everybody has the system in them. It's a matter if it's been turned on or off. By taking Masterpiece, Zeolite Z, we do have a very real, as much of an antidote as it can be. It's pulling out much faster than it's coming back into the body and rebuilding. And there's no higher level of test or scientific gold standard we couldn't do anymore to prove out Masterpiece. We are doing a study starting in a month on microclots. We're going to do about 3 different quantifiable microclot testing, and we'll have a study group of 20 or 30, and we're going to see how good Masterpiece helps support the blood and being its healthiest. But look at these head and neck areas. This is the charts from our study. We're talking about removing 100% a lot of those. That's an antidote, people. It's an all-natural antidote.
Yeah, and I'll interrupt. I've never in the last 15 years doing this type of testing publicly, have never seen any location ever not light up again. They're always consistent. They will always light up in those same areas. No matter what environment I had them in, geographic location, I would always get the positive findings in the exact same locations. So to see this happen, and this is why, quite frankly, it was very emotional for me, because my whole goal has been to help people. And I'm very left brain, and I want to see the facts. I want to see the data. I want to see the science. And this was quite frankly a shocker to me in a very, very positive way. So it means that there's hope. And right now, I think that's what society needs the most right now, is hope, and to understand that we all need to wake up and we all need to work together to find an absolute solution. The absolute solution would see everyone get down to zero.
Is there anybody else in the world that you guys know of? Is there any other product that you guys know of that is even comparable in any way, shape, or form to being able to produce these results? Or is this it, Jesse?
I've never seen anything. And I've had a lot of people come to me, Sean, can you please push this product to the people you see? This will help them. And I look at it and it was always BS. And it was always just a money scheme, a way to make money. Even supporting this, I had my reservations because I'm an investigator. But our whole mission to my organization is to help people and hopefully find a cure by coaching people through the process and getting political support and community support so that we can all have this very serious discussion. How do we stop this? And it would be hypocritical of me, knowing that this works, not to put it out there. And so, it's a fine line that I walk. It makes me feel uneasy because I don't want to be misinterpreted that I'm pushing a product for any monetary gain. That's not the reason we're doing this. I'm doing this because it's the truth. And I'm supporting Matt because he's got a good heart. I see his passion. He really wants to help humanity. He wants everyone to live a healthy lifestyle. We have a lot of commonality. We're both parents. We know how important family and children are. Children didn't have a choice to be here. We decided to do that. Or it's our responsibility to create the foundation for them to help them be successful and thrive in life in the future. And so if we don't stop this now, our children have no future of cognitive freedom and a lot of other liberties that will be taken away.
I've been taking Masterpiece now for months and months, and it's 6 drops under the tongue morning and night. In this study, it was 30 drops. Why 30?
Yes,
Is 30
yeah.
safe for everybody, or why 30?
It's because the study was in the United Kingdom, so coordinating everybody and everything that has to go into the study is a big affair, right? It's a lot to maneuver. And so we knew that we were only going to be coming back one time. And we were really excited of Jesse when I understood the equipment and what he was testing compared to when we were doing the Bluetooth or media access control study. I knew that his technique was the very best way to measure this internal system so we could see its strength and what it's doing, what it actually is, and chart it out in someone, and then be able to see if of course we wanted great results, but we didn't know what to expect. I mean, but I knew this. I knew that if it didn't work, I wasn't going to be telling people that it could get that out. We had enough science on our hands to prove that we were getting other stuff out. It just means that they were maybe too good with making a system. So, but very pleased that we have the undeniable filmed results that we got, that there's no way to kink the science of what we've done here. We have all the proof. And so to be able to steward out an antidote for the realest way they're blackmailing and controlling people is this internal system. We see how well it works just in making people schizophrenic. And we can see that all their stories about what they were feeling was being done to them because they had been putting memories into these people and memory sets. No matter how crazy it sounds, now it's all out there. Yeah. The Epstein file talks about it. It talks exactly the way how people were targeted, about how it's a brutal way to take out threats. And we already know the people at the very top are not making any sense with the decisions they're making. Our politicians, our people in power, they are bringing in a world that does make them obsolete. It doesn't mean they have more control over us. They already control us. They already built a society that they're untouchable in. They're the ones that are above the law already. They already have the whole power. They didn't know they were actually bringing in an automated AI world. And that was the real plan, to get rid of them. People at the top don't want to share power with the other people at the top. Now that they got this system in them, because it's in everybody, you better believe they got it turned on in them, and they have to fight this fight privately. So I just hope that if any of them come across this, or anybody knows these senators or people who are not making sense, the bad choices they're making, it's probably because they're being forced to. And no matter how over the top it sounds like that, it's like, we have the proof that this works, and we all need to get this radio frequency emitting system out of our bodies, and our health also, because You know, it was really neat, Sean. Every person that completed this last study in the United Kingdom, they interviewed down almost all of them. Some of them didn't want to be interviewed. There were some famous people in there that declined it being interviewed on film, but they all said that they have undeniable, more vivid dreams. And dream vividness is an important part of our health because it does mean that our pineal gland is firing off and functioning correctly because, which also means our well-being hormones, serotonin, melatonin, all that is made in our pineal gland, our third eye. And so the fact that everybody but two people in the study that completed it, 21 out of 23 people, said they had undeniable deeper sleep. So deep sleep and more dreaming, that's a good way to measure someone's health and how well their central nervous system is. And I'm telling you, everybody feeling better, doing better, thinking better, being better, thinking more, critically thinking. If we can get a whole group of everybody doing this, I think we can turn this shit show around real quick, especially with these people like Noah Harari, Elon Musk, Elon Musk with Moltbook. When he's seen how those computers were talking to each other, it freaked him out too. He was coming out with statements saying, and think about it. What happens if 20 different AI companies have a firm hold on their AI, which doesn't look like that's going to be possible for any of them, and then one of them is bad news, and that AI could be enough to figure out a way easily to kill everybody. They were already talking about it, putting frequencies out of people's phones, kind of like Israel did to Hezbollah or whatever. Do the same. Like, what happens if AI turns on us and decides they're going to blast us with our phones?
And I'm glad people are finally talking about this stuff because universal basic income is not going to do the trick, folks. It ain't going to be enough to get through what's coming. And I want to just show Jesse's website here, cosmicclarityconnections.org. Jesse, you also mentioned that did you say 2034.org? What is that other petition?
Yeah, it's stop3024.com, 3024.com.